the riverbanks themselves are quite varied in terms of what you find growing along them. In many places they are part of a sort of a woodland habitat. At Leagrave, for example, you have the rotten corner wood, which goes right the way up to the stream itself. And in other places the banks are quite open, and you would expect to find wetland species, things like the purple loosestrife and the yellow flag irises and things like that. And those are the kind of wetland species that you would hope to find. And in somewhere like Cowslip Meadow, we have the southern marsh orchid, which is again one of the more unusual species, which is only found at Cowslip Meadow on the Lea system. I'm always hoping it will turn up on some of these other sites, but it hasn't done yet, but time may tell. But unfortunately, there are other sections where coarser species have become much more established, and possibly one of the worst nuisance species is bramble, which, although it does provide a lot of habitat value in its own right, there's all sorts of insects that like the flowers, and of course it produces blackberries, which are good for foraging, not only for us, but for all sorts of wildlife. And it provides hollow stems, which are very important as a sort of breeding habitat for other invertebrates that kind of crawl into the hollows in the stems and overwinter and do that sort of thing there. But unfortunately, bramble is something which is thought to be spreading, possibly because of the increasing nitrification of the rainwater. It does tend to exclude other species once it gets a hold. So managing bramble, I think, is probably going to be one of the key issues in the future to try to keep the riverbanks more open than they are. The other thing is that species like the water vole, for example, likes to feed on soft vegetation. Doesn't have a mixed diet. It doesn't like woody vegetation at all. And bramble will basically kind of obliterate, the sort of finer grasses and other species, the sort of thing that the water vole likes to live amongst. So I actually think that the spread of bramble along the riverbanks is possibly one of the contributory causes for the water voles becoming more scarce than they were a few years ago.